fighting Iraq? What if we were fighting China? You know, what people believe determines how they act. We want these people to know God and follow Him. Okay, now I'd like to introduce Kaizhi.
Because she was teaching Sunday Bible school, and she likes Esther very much. He strongly and persuaded me to name the baby as Esther. I think this is a big name. And my mother-in-law is visiting us and taking care of baby, and do a lot of hard work here. My name is Kaizhi in Chinese, and Kaizhi means open wisdom, and Tang means a kind of soup or a kind of hot water. I don't know if there's any relationship or not, but in the Bible it's saying that the beginning of wisdom is to worship God. Today I will give a short story about how I became a Christian, a key point in that journey, and also I tell you a bit about what happened to me after I became a Christian. As Kaizhi just said, and I was growing up in China until 25 years old, and I grown up in an environment of atheism, and in our school system, and we are told that evolutionary is the answer to everything. Evolutionary can explain the origin of this world. And in our culture, any god or any ghost doesn't exist. Any belief or idealism saying that there exists a supernatural is not right. It belongs to the weak. But thanks to God, I got the opportunity to leave my hometown and to go to Beijing and to have my college. And there, on a Christmas Eve, I remember maybe it's 1970s, no, not 70. I was not born at that time. It's 1993, probably, yeah. And I think at that Christmas Eve, I was first time introduced to the church, and also I know some Christians at the same time. For the first time in my life, I know the Bible. I think at that time I like those Christians very much, and I think they had a calm and a peaceful and joyful life. That's what I like best, and I want to be their friends. But it seems to be very hard for me to accept the first sentence in the Bible. In the beginning, God created heavens and earth. So that's too hard for me to accept. Although I tried many times to read the Bible, basically it's the Genesis, starting from the beginning. But when I read a few maybe chapters, I will give it away because it's too hard to believe at that time. And also later, when I became a little bit familiar with the Bible, maybe only the first 3 chapters of the Bible, and I began using my logic to argue with the Christians about the existence of God. At that time, one of my logic works in this way. I said Adam and Eve failed just after a short period of time after the creation. So it means the creation of God is not so good. It's weak, has some faults, and so it means God is not supernatural, God is not almighty, God is not holy. So at that time, in my mind, and there existed this kind of logic always. And also I argue with them, and it's very hard for me to accept Christianity. But later, when I came to the United States, and one event, I think, changed my life. I came to Penn State in 1998, and I thank many Christians, many Chinese Christians or American Christians, and they show a lot of kindness to me when I came to Penn State, maybe for the first week. But the most important thing, I think, they invite me to their Bible studies, and so I can continue my old life, and I can get some opportunities to argue with them about the existence of God. But one day, I think it's in spring, someday in spring of 1999, and one of my American friends called Jim Watts, and he is holding some Bible study with me. And at that time, we are studying Genesis. We're studying Genesis chapter 6, and saying when men began to increase in number on earth, and the daughters were born to them, the sons of God saw the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them their chose. Then Lord said, my spirit will not contend with men forever, for he is mortal. His days will be 120 years. I think at that moment, a series of questions appear in my mind. I think almost follow the old ways. I say, God, you have so many best sons. They could not resist the temptation of beautiful women. There must be something wrong with the creation of God and also this God. At that time, I remember very clearly, and I want to argue about this with Jim. And also, I remember my English is even worse than now. Now it's poor. And so I have to translate my Chinese meaning into some English sentences, and then want to argue with Jim. So I did so and translated the meaning into English. But at that moment, I remember very clearly, a strong voice came to my mind and saying that, oh, you are a computer programmer. He knows me, I'm a computer programmer. And if one day, one of your computer programmers will ask you a question, why do you make me? And why do you make me with so many bugs? So that kind of voice challenged me how to answer this question. So that time I was shocked over there, because I'm a computer programmer for, at that time maybe for 5 to 6 years. I know very well about how my program works. And I don't think the computer programmer will ask me this kind of question one day. And also I said, if my computer program asks me these questions, I have the right to refuse to answer, because I don't think they have the right to ask me this kind of question. So at that moment, and a relationship, between the programmer and me, and the God and me, appears in my mind. And I suddenly realized that there is a great, maybe there is a gap between the creator and the creation, just as between my computer programmer and me. So for the creation, he doesn't know anything about the creator, except the creator told the creation. So unless I write something in my program saying that this is made by Kaizhi, Tang, and no program understand who made this program. And also, the computer program only deal with what I have been playing, exactly the code I have been playing. He will never know about me. So at that moment, this relationship came out, and I realized that it's foolish to argue against God in that way, because there's a gap between the creation and the creator. And I'm only a creation, not a creator. Many times, I go up to the creator's position and ask him this kind of question. So later, and then I have got this kind of voice, and then I stopped asking the question. So for that question, already I have translated in English. I've never asked. So later I told my friend that I swallowed the question into my stomach. So later in the summer, and in a conference that's nearby here, I think it's in Harrisburg, nearby Harrisburg, and I made my decision, and I became a Christian. After I became a Christian, and at that time my wife is in Ohio to do some work, and later and asked him what is my response for this kind of things. And later she told me that you just repeat it to me and I found the truth. So he told me, maybe I forgot about that. I think after I became a Christian, I thank God, and He really changed my life, and He gave me the strength to forgive someone that hold me very seriously, and it's impossible for me to forgive by myself. And also, His promise that I will go to eternity, give me a lot of security, and also give me a lot of large space to live in this world. And also, He urged me to change my priority, the priority in my life, including God, church, and family, and my PhD study, and all other things. And also, later, God also made me to serve Him in the Chinese church, and I got an opportunity to serve the brothers and sisters. At the same time, I got an opportunity to know many Chinese newcomers, and introduce many of them to the Chinese church. And I think that will be a very good foundation for their life. And also these days, I was wondering these days about why God let me get a PhD. So these days I'm reading some books about the relationship between the creation, science, and also evolution. And if I have got opportunity, I will try to translate this kind of books into Chinese, and hope my Chinese fellow will understand the Christianity better. And also today, I would like to use this opportunity to thank the God's work on me, and also many Christians, Chinese Christians and American Christians, and also on behalf of the Christians in the State College, I would like to thank the COM through their work, and basically it's just Kaizhi said, and many outgoing activities, and also special parties and special meetings. Basically it's through their Bible studies. I think a lot of Chinese students and scholars in the State College area accept Jesus as their own Savior. And many times, in our church, I attend a lot of baptism in our church, because our new pastor, he is just a half later has been came to the State College. So all his baptism I have saw them, including myself. So every time there will be some people, some new Christians will be baptized, and they will refer to Kaizhi and saying that I had Bible study with Kaizhi. So I think Tom has did great work in State College area. And also I pray that God will use this organization in State College area to serve those Chinese community, and also basically students and scholars. And I will end my sharing with a little story and some statistic. And this story maybe happened in last century, the century before last. It's 19th centuries. And if I didn't make this mistake, this story was happened to Hudson Taylor. he was, at the beginning, when he was very young, and he just decided to be a minister in China. And at the beginning, his work is very hard, and he had to visit village by village, town by town, to distribute the pamphlet about the gospel. So one day, a Chinese intellectual found the preciousness of the gospel and decided to become a Christian. Then he asked Hudson. He said, "I spent my whole life seeking the meaning of life. I searched in all the philosophy and religion in China, and I cannot find the answer. Your gospel tells the real truth." Then he asked, "How long did your people know this truth?" "About 400 to 500 years. This is the answer of Hudson. I don't know how he counted that. Maybe he's kind of about Reform theology in England. I don't know what happened. Then the Chinese intellectual asked, "Why did it take so long to be passed here?" So I don't know what happened to this story, but I know Hudson Taylor, he spent his whole life in China, and he was buried in China. And when he was dead, and his body was take a ship along the Yangtze River, and there are millions of people standing by the river and say goodbye to Hudson. And when I heard about this story, and my feeling is very mixed. And I know Hudson is, because of the love of God, he can show love to Chinese people. But he is a foreigner to Chinese people. But many times I ask myself, you are Chinese, and what you can do. And also in State College, just as Kaizhi said, right now there are 800 Chinese students, and maybe plus other people, including visiting scholars and also their families and the visiting parents and the kids. Maybe there are about 1,500, maybe even more. But the Chinese congregation is only about 60 to 80 people. That's pretty small. So I think it's a large amount of space for us to work. And also one day when I talked with a Korean student, and he said there are about 300 Korean students in State College, but he said there may be half of them go to church. I think that's amazing. Okay, I